everybody, and welcome to another set of videos. Today we're going to be doing some more lantern control, but I'm doing a deck tech because I'm trying something interesting with the list. So let's go over what I'm doing here before we get everything started. So for the most part, the main board looks like your stereotypical lantern control. You got your land base with Mishra's Baubles and Mox Opals. Now, one thing to note here is I'm trying out 3 Mox Opals instead of 4. One of the main reasons why is because obviously Opals aren't fantastic in multiples because they're legendary. There are some instances where, yes, having the extra Opal lets you get the extra mana for the turn, which is very beneficial. But I want to see what the games are like running with only 3. In the community, there is one person, I only know him by his username on MTG Salvation. He goes by Thinker. He has a spreadsheet put together which has a whole lot of data in it. And one thing he's brought up recently is that apparently Mox Opal seems to be affecting our win rate negatively, with concerns to it being in the opening hand. Personally, I think that might be a case of when you see a Mox Opal, you're more willing to keep a risky hand because of the possibility of it being explosive. But I digress. Because of stuff like this, I'm just cutting down 1 Mox Opal, so we're only running 3. Have our usual discard package of 3 Thoughtseize, 4 Inquisitions, usual Ancient Stirrings, the artifacts are our usual fare, 2 Pixis, 1 Pirate Spell Bomb, 2 Pithing Needle, 4 Lantern, 1 Cage, and 4 Codex Shredder. Now, I've seen a lot of people running 1 Abrupt Decay in the main board. I do not like that very much, to be completely honest. I'm running with a singleton Search Res Canta. Now, it might just be my luck with the pairings, but I tend to play against a lot of decks where Search Res Canta is a lot better main board than it is sideboard. So I'm just running the 1 copy in the main, not running any in the side. There was a tournament I played a couple weeks ago. I ended up getting top 4. Yeah, it was an SCG IQ. I came top 4 with Lantern Control. Not this exact list, mind you. And I was running 2 Search Res Cants in the sideboard, and I ended up drawing both of them one game, and it felt really bad because I needed to play my 1 Search and sack the other one so that I could make sure my Broge was online so I wasn't getting attacked. And that cut me off from doing something else. I just wish it had been something else than a second Search Res Canta, so we're going to just stick with the 1. We have 3 Ensnaring Bridges because I don't like running 4 with War of Invention. I can definitely understand the argument for 4. Personally, I'm fine with 3. They have the usual Witchbane Orb, the 4 War of Invention, and some of you are going, what the heck, you're skipping over that black card. This black card that's right here, that's in between the War of Invention and Witchbane Orb. What the heck is that black card? Well, my friends, that is a Mastermind's Acquisition. Now, this is the entire reason for me making some changes to the sideboard and whatnot. Now, you look at Mastermind's Inquisition, and you're like, why the heck are you running a Diabolic Tutor? Diabolic Tutor's not good. Why are you running Diabolic Tutor? And I would agree with you. If Mastermind's Acquisition was just a Diabolic Tutor, I would completely dismiss it. But because of... I'm talking about Mastermind's Acquisition, not Welding Jar, thank you. Because of this second mode, this wish, this Death Wish, it's really interesting because it can help make your certain game 1s a lot better. So let me give you some examples and show how I've kind of put together a toolbox sideboard to take advantage of Mastermind's Acquisition. So we have a lot of 1-ofs in our sideboard over here, but let's go over our usual fare stuff. We've got 2 Welding Jars because Welding Jar, 2 Tezzerets because Tezzeret is amazing, 2 Ley Lines because those are also really good. Just gonna move these over here. And then we got 2 Abrupt Decay. Because Abrupt Decay is good to bring in against a lot of decks to deal with things like Stony Silence. And now we have all of our 1-ofs here. So first off, Porphyry Nodes. Porphyry Nodes is great to bring in against basically any deck that's either Affinity or a deck that is running Noble Hierarch. Because, as anyone who plays Lantern knows, 0-power creatures are the bane of our existence. Because they get under our bridge and can kill us. So if you're playing against Affinity, or like Counters Company or something like that, with Mastermind's Acquisition, you can grab your Porphyry Nodes, play the Porphyry Nodes, and be like, ha, next turn I get to start blowing up your annoying creatures that would otherwise kill me. Nihil Spellbomb. In the main board, we already have Grafdigger's Cage to act as Graveyard Hate. However, there are some decks, like Living End, that Grafdigger's Cage doesn't do anything to. So sometimes you just want the extra insurance. So having the Nihil Spellbomb in the sideboard is fairly good. We have another Pithing Needle, because you need 3 Pithing Needles to deal with Tron. And then for Storm, we have Aethersworn Canonist. Now, don't get me wrong. I have no illusions here of like turn 6 Mastermind's Acquisition, play Aethersworn Canonist, laugh at my Storm opponent. If we get to turn 6, we'd be lucky. Especially for Game 1. I've not had much success Game 1 against Storm. But what's really nice about Canonist is it's a creature. It's an artifact. So you can get it with Whir of Invention. So that's another reason it's in the sideboard as a 1-of. Because you can bring it in for games 2 and 3 and tutor it up with Whir and just laugh at your Storm opponent. Then we have Torpor Orb. Now, this is a card that I have found to be fairly good against the Humans decks. Because, first and foremost, Game 1, if you land a bridge, your Humans opponent doesn't really have a way to kill you. The only way they have is... what is that card's name? Kessig Malcontents? I believe the card name is. I'm gonna look this up right now. I'm gonna have to go... Malcontents. Alrighty. Yeah, Kessig Malcontents. This is the only card that can really kill you if you land a bridge Game 1. It was a card that was played at the SCG Open this past weekend, so that's why I was mentioning it. But besides that, they kind of just concede to you having your bridge. Game 2, their hate is in the form of a creature called Vivian Renegades. It's a 3-mana human, comes into play, destroy target artifact. I think that's really the only way they have to deal with stuff in our deck, besides obviously using like Kitesail Freebooter to exile the stuff in our hand. But with Torpor Orb, their deck does nothing. Their deck literally does nothing. Torpor Orb doesn't turn off Meddling Mage, that's an important thing to note. But Torpor Orb does a really good job at shutting off almost everything else in that deck. Then there's Gear per Aether Grid, which is I think it's a nice way to just be like, you know what, I want to quickly end this game, so I'm going to Acquisition, grab Aether Grid, and just go to town. I think it's a good way to try and alternatively win the game. And again, you can always bring it in for sideboard for the matchups you need it. And then finally we have Maelstrom Pulse to just deal with problem permanents like opposing Leyline of Sanctities type of thing. So the goal of this 75 here is to be playing our Whir deck and seeing if we can make Mastermind's Acquisition work. On the one hand, it's kind of a 5th tutor for the deck. For those of you who have been playing Lantern for a while, you will remember our wonderful Infernal Tutor, which we used to run for a while in the green-black versions of Lantern. Now, Infernal Tutor is a hell of a lot better. Mastermind's Acquisition, no doubt about that. I'm not kidding myself there. If we were going for just a tutor effect, yeah, I would be running Infernal Tutor. Simply because we get Hellbent a lot, and then we can just tutor for whatever the heck we need in our deck. That's why Infernal Tutor's good. But Mastermind's Acquisition, again, it's in here for basically the second mode. Like, I'm going to show you guys Death Wish, because that's the card I basically look at Death Wish here. And it's 3 mana, so it's 1 less mana than Mastermind's Acquisition, which I understand it's a huge difference in mana cost. But the biggest difference between Death Wish and Mastermind's Acquisition is Acquisition costs 1 more mana, but Death Wish makes us lose half our life, rounded up. So, in exchange for not losing half our life rounded up, we have to pay 1 more mana. Now, obviously, the life loss is kind of negligible. Windows, fuck off. But, honestly, I want to see if Mastermind's Acquisition is good enough. There's a really good chance that it's terrible, but I think there's a fair chance that it might be really good for the deck. So I'm going to try it out and see how things go. So we're going to enter into a competitive league to try this out, because I'm going to take the gloves off. We're going to see how this works. So I will see you guys for game 1 in just a moment.